Hi everyone, it's Miss Phipps here, and today we're going to be doing a lesson on A Christmas Carol looking at Marley's ghost in Stave 1. Why is this scene important then? Well, we're introduced to the theme of the supernatural for the first time. We learn the consequences of living a greedy, miserly life, and we see Dickens delivering a warning to Scrooge and his reader. So in this scene, we see Dickens using Marley as a vehicle here to deliver a message to his reader. Let's read through the extract then. The chain he drew was clasped about his middle. It was long and wound about him like a tail, and it was made, for Scrooge observed it closely, of cash boxes, keys, padlocks, ledgers, deeds, and heavy purses wrought in steel. "Mercy," he said, "dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?" "Man of the worldly mind," replied the ghost, "do you believe in me or not?" "I do," said Scrooge, "I must. But why do spirits walk the earth, and why do they come to me?" "It is required of every man," the ghost returned, "that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men, and travel far and wide. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world. Oh, woe is me, and witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth, and turned to happiness." Again the spectre raised a cry, and shook its chain, and wrung its shadowy hands. "You are fettered," said Scrooge, trembling. "Tell me why." "I wear the chain I forged in life," replied the ghost. "I made it link by link, and yard by yard. I girded it of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you?" Scrooge trembled more and more. "Or would you know," pursued the ghost, "the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was full as heavy and as long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have laboured on it since. It is a ponderous chain." Scrooge glanced about him on the floor in the expectation of finding himself surrounded by some 50 or 60 fathoms of iron cable, but he could see nothing. "Jacob," he said imploringly, "old Jacob Marley, tell me more. Speak comfort to me, Jacob." "I have none to give," the ghost replied. "It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge, and is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. Nor can I tell you what I would. A very little more is all permitted to me. I cannot rest, I cannot stay, I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walks beyond our counting house. Mark me. In life, my spirit never roved beyond the narrow limits of our money changing hull, and weary journeys lie before me." "But you were always a good man of business, Jacob," faltered Scrooge, who now began to apply this to himself. "Business!" cried the ghost, wringing its hands again. "Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business." Okay, initial ideas then. What do we learn about Marley's ghost here? What is the purpose of Marley's visit? And why do you think Dickens presents Marley in this way? So I'd like you to pause the video and give these questions a go. Literally 1 or 2 sentences, just summing up your initial ideas in regards to these, and then we'll go through some ideas together, okay? So, what do we learn about Marley's ghost here? Well, we learn of Marley's past mistakes, we learn about his sinful ways, and we learn about his consequent punishment as well for acting in this way. We learn that he's been condemned to an afterlife of pain and suffering, and that he's been doomed to wander the world in a ghostly state. We also see that Marley has accepted his wrongdoings. He is remorseful, but it's too late for him. He longs to help those who are suffering, but is unable to do anything. He is condemned to just watch from afar. So what's the purpose of his visit then? Well, Marley comes as a warning to Scrooge, revealing that it's not too late for him to change his own miserly, sinful ways. He also reveals to Scrooge that he will be visited by the other ghosts as well. So Marley kind of sets the scene for the novel, and he makes the upcoming structure of the novella clear to the reader as well. And why do you think Dickens presents Marley in this way? He uses Marley here as a vehicle to deliver his didactic message to his capital reader, to change their ways or experience a similar fate to Marley. So Marley comes to warn Scrooge, but then Dickens is also using Marley to warn his reader, who would have believed in purgatory during this time, that if they don't change their ways, they will be doomed to have a similar fate as Marley. What we're going to do then, there are 6 questions here. I would like you to pause the video and work through these. I would probably spend about 15 minutes, and the purpose of these are really just to pick apart that extract a little bit more, thinking about what Dickens's message was, thinking about how he's using Marley, thinking about his certain methods that he's using, like metaphors in particular, to present Marley in a particular way. And my kind of overall argument would be that Marley is being used by Dickens as a warning, not just to Scrooge, but to his reader as well. So those are just some things to bear in mind. So pause the video now, spend about 10 to 15 minutes working through these questions, and then we will go through some ideas. Okay, number one then. Well, Marley, he's weighed down and being punished by God for his past sins. So the chains, they are a metaphor for his sins. And Dickens is listing here of all the things the chains are made up of, keys and cash boxes. They're all symbolic of his greed and selfishness. So his chains are a metaphorical symbol for his sins, but also his guilt as well, because he has had time to kind of reflect on his past mistakes, and he's guilty for his lack of social responsibility due to his consuming greed. He's been so consumed by his love for money, which is shown through these cash boxes, keys and padlocks that are all weighing him down, and therefore the chains are representative of his greed and his sins. You know, God has punished him in this way. And number two, Marley says that Scrooge has laboured on his own chains. So Dickens is saying that Scrooge has been just as single focused as Marley, concentrating on money and wealth, and therefore Marley is warning him that he has been forging his own metaphorical chain and will also be condemned to the same fate if he doesn't change. So Scrooge has been working on his own chain. He's been building his own chain out of keys and cash boxes and padlocks because he's had the same single-minded focus as Marley on wealth and gain. Marley says that he cannot rest, he cannot stay, he cannot linger anywhere. And this is a reference to the Catholic belief of purgatory, where the souls of the dead were left to be left suffering before judgment. And Marley, he previously in the extract says that he's doomed, and the repetition of cannot, this suggests to us that Marley has already been judged and he's already been condemned to this life of misery. So he was stuck in purgatory, but now he has been judged for his past sins and he's kind of been punished to stay there forever. And the quote also highlights that he's allowed no rest or peace, only torture and remorse. And the repetition of, you know, I cannot, it emphasizes and reflects the eternal length of Marley's punishment. He's not going to have any rest. He's just going to have eternal torture. Number four, so Marley refers to the counting house as a whole. Well, this could be a metaphor for the way that Scrooge and Marley have both become stuck in this deep obsession with making money. We know that holes are very deep and very dark, so it could represent the darkness that has consumed both of their lives. You know, it did consume Marley's, and now it's completely consuming Scrooge's. Because of that pursuit of wealth and their narrow focus. So it talks about the narrow limits. Well, this could be a reference to that really narrow, single-minded focus of making money with no regard for mankind or social responsibility. Number five, the ocean could be a metaphor for all of mankind. And Marley is trying to show Scrooge that his focus on financial business was merely a drop in comparison. It was this really tiny focus. And this kind of links to earlier on in the novella when Scrooge told the charity men that it's not his business to interfere with other people. It's not his business to support the poor. But Marley is arguing here, he says that mankind is his business. You know, that's what he should have been focused on. And, you know, saying that Scrooge should focus on that massive ocean, mankind, rather than just the single drop. And if we think right back to the beginning of the novella, when we find out that Marley died at his funeral, Scrooge was his sole friend and his sole mourner. So it really emphasizes their solitary existence, just like solitary as an oyster. And, you know, the rest of mankind are this massive ocean, and they're just there focusing on this tiny little drop in comparison. And in what way is Marley being used as a vehicle by Dickens? Well, all of these above questions and things that I've gone through help Dickens to deliver his main message to the reader, which is not to focus purely on self-gain. So Marley is Dickens's mouthpiece here to show the reader the importance of social responsibility, the importance of looking out for one another and being compassionate to one another. And this image of purgatory that he uses would also really resonate with his reader, who were extremely religious at the time, and therefore it would help him to deliver his ideas about Christian duty. You know, it's Christian duty to have that social responsibility. It's Christian duty to be more like Fred, who is compassionate and kind. So hopefully these questions really helped you to pick this apart a little bit more, and hopefully they will help you to answer this question, which is, starting with this extract, how does Dickens present Marley's ghost? So this is the quote that I'm going to use. I would write this quote down and I would annotate all the different things that I'm going to say about it. And then I'm going to give you 3 quotes and I want you to choose your own and do the same. So my spirit never walked beyond our counting house, mark me in life. My spirit never roved beyond the narrow limits of our money changing hull. Well, the adverb never, I'd start by that, and I'd talk about how they were always preoccupied with their pursuit of wealth, and they turned their backs on social responsibility and Christian duty. They never paid any attention to any of those people around them and just focused purely on that financial gain. I talk about the adjective narrow as well, the narrow limits, but reflects Scrooge's single-minded focus on money and nothing else. That links with the idea of them never being involved with humankind and turning their back on social responsibility. And I talk about the reference to the money changing hull and how this acts as a metaphor. So the counting house itself is small and dingy like a hull, because we know that Marley and Scrooge, although they make money, they never ever spend it. But it's also a metaphor for that darkness that has consumed their lives and the way that they are both stuck in their never-ending obsession with wealth. If you're in a hole, you're just kind of digging deeper and deeper, and Scrooge's love for money, it just keeps going and going and going until there's not going to be any turning back. But Marley's saying, it's not too late for you to get out of this hole and save yourself. Okay, so these are the quotations that I would like you to choose from. So I wear the chain I forged in life, mankind was my business, and I cannot rest, I cannot stay, I cannot linger anywhere. I don't know which one I like the most. I think they're all really good, but we could talk this one. You could talk about the chain and how it's a metaphor, how he made it himself, link by link. So it's all those individual sins all linking together. And importantly, I didn't say this earlier, but he did it with his own free will. Marley made the choice to live like this, just like Scrooge makes the choice to live like this. And Dickens is saying, you have the choice to be good or to be bad. Mankind was my business. We'd talk about the repetition of business, this idea of the drop of water in the comprehensive ocean being a metaphor for mankind and what they should be focusing on, their social responsibility. We could also make links to other parts of the novel as well. For example, when Scrooge tells the charity worker that it's not his business, he only focuses on his own business. I cannot rest, I cannot stay, I cannot linger anywhere. We've got the anaphora, the repetition, I cannot. The way this emphasizes the length of Marley's eternal torture, and how, I guess you could take a little bit from mine as well, never walked beyond our counting house, and beyond, or the fact that they can't go beyond their love of money. So you could choose any of these quotes, okay? Pause the video now, write your quote out, make some annotations around it, and think about all those lovely things you're going to say about it. Okay, so answering this question then, well, we're going to have the same success criteria that we usually have. We want to have our central argument, and like I said earlier, my central argument is going to be that Marley's ghost is a warning to Scrooge and a warning to the reader. Embedded evidence, we've chosen our quote already. Language analysis, so zooming in on a word or method, well, you've done that as well. You've been picking out those specific words that you're going to pick out of there. Layers of meaning, so really developing those ideas. Like I've said in previous videos, you really want to be saying lots of really good things about one single quote and really adding those layers of meaning, and then linking to context, so either about life at the time in Victorian England or what we know about Dickens's intentions. So the way that Dickens is using Marley to deliver a message to his reader, well, that's context, because if we talk about his wealthy capitalist reader who also, like Scrooge, turned their back on social responsibility, well, that is context. So like I have said in other videos, you've got a choice here. You can either finish the video here if you don't want to listen to me anymore. You can read through this model on your own. Please do read it though, because it will help you. And then answer this question using your own quote. Ooh, Siri, you can go away. Or you can carry on watching and I will very quickly read through this answer if you think it will be really helpful to have me just read through it for you. Okay, so I'll let you decide. So I've said, in this extract, Dickens presents Marley's ghost as a warning to both Scrooge and the reader to change. Marley comes to warn Scrooge that it is not too late to change his miserly ways and focus on what's important, mankind. Marley explains to Scrooge that when he was alive, his spirit never roved beyond the narrow limits of their money-changing hole, much like how Scrooge currently finds himself. Dickens uses the phrase money-changing hole to represent how stuck Marley was in his ways. He was stuck in this hole, obsessed with making money until there was no way out. Marley comes to Scrooge, however, to warn him that it's not too late for him. He can change his ways before it is too late. Moreover, this reference to the noun hole could also be seen as a metaphor for the way darkness has consumed Scrooge's life. Holes are usually deep and dark, and therefore his love for money is so deep that his life is completely dark and miserable as a result. What's more, Dickens utilizes the adjective narrow, so that should be in purple as well, because that is a method, the adjective narrow, to illustrate how narrow-minded Scrooge is and how his narrow focus on money and individual gain will result in a punishment similar to Marley's. It is clear that Dickens uses Marley as a vehicle here to deliver his message not just to Scrooge, but also to his capitalist reader, who would have been particularly religious and fearful of purgatory, that they must change their ways or also be condemned to a life of weary journeys after death, just like Marley. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. Use my model, but make sure you're using your own quote and your own ideas to really build up that analysis. Okay, I hope it's been of use, and I will see you next time. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye.